Does your vote matter? If you're asking that, it's a no. So watch, and then you'll be able to find out where your vote actually matters. My name is Ammon Takau. This is Addison Hildebrandt. We are the co-founders to Locally Informed.
Yeah. And basically, we just want to go through this podcast number one with you guys and walk you through kind of step by step, each step of the way. I mean, both of us were two young bucks, right? You're 27. We're both 27, right?
Soon
You
to be
26?
26 right now, yeah.
26. Yeah. So I mean, both two young guys, young families, but we saw that there was a problem and we wanted to take some actions. And I think, Ammon, why don't you go ahead and kind of share your side of the story?
Yeah. So just to prelude, we're not going to profess that we are super educated in the process or educated in this subject matter. This podcast, everything that we're doing here, is we're attempting to fill a void that we have seen that desperately needs to be filled. So join in on a bunch of nobodies trying to become, trying to basically do our part in preserving the rights and our freedoms in this country. Which, thinking about, like, that's exactly how the country is started. That's where it is. It's just a bunch of nobody. So we're young, we're entrepreneurs. For me,
Yeah,
I
it just going off of that.
yeah.
Do you think that you and I are kind of in that same shoe? I haven't thought of it like that. The same shoes of the founding fathers, that they were going around like doing their normal businesses and their normal jobs and everything. And then they're like, wait, we're getting like, I'm sick and tired of England telling us what we can do. And we're not being represented. They weren't being represented in the
Yeah.
English Parliament. And they're like, hey, this isn't right. We should do something about this. Do you think that we're in similar? What do you think similarities, differences?
Well, I think the similarity between not only that revolution, but in anything that has an impact in history, it comes down to someone, some people, a group of, just regular Joes being like, yo, this is what needs to change, or this is what needs to happen. Um, so yeah, I would say that we're very similar. If you look at the founding fathers and the people who've joined in on that revolution, there were farmers, they were craftsmen, they were just normal people trying to live their lives. And it finally came to a point where they had to unite and to join a cause in something. So yeah, I think that we are very similar to that aspect. And if anyone watches, like, oh, they're comparing themselves to the founding father to the joining the revolution or whatever. No, we're comparing ourselves to like the lowest of the low. We're humble. We're just, everyday people trying to create a solution. So
Yeah.
that wherever
And
that would lead.
and hopefully, like, I mean, like you said, we're both like just two nobodies when it comes to politics. Like this past week, we just put in a lot of research on how the process worked and local governments and county governments. I was like, what? I had no idea that this was how it worked. But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't we want to idolize those kinds of people? Wouldn't we want to follow in the footsteps, in the shoes of greater men that came before us?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Utah State for a little bit, and I love the quote that they had on their wall: "Dare to do mighty things." Right? Because I think there is that element of just sending it, and I think sometimes having that, uh, you know, idolizing someone or having them as a role model in that sense helps you build that courage to just send it. And that's why I think, that quote, dare, right? It really is a dare. So there's a lot of courage that needs to come up. I mean, Addison's so great at this. I move not as fast as him, so Addison has no fear. That dude just goes. So even this podcast is a perfect example of just sending it. But then it'll work its way through, and I think that's how any movement start. I mean, what, the Boston Tea Party, that was just off of emotion, right? So they just went it just went crazy for a second, and then yeah. So I think a lot of things in history just happen from starting. So I think it is good to idolize some of those people and use them as role models. But yeah,
I
so
think you should go ahead and start from the beginning for
okay.
you. The people like you guys that are listening, you're just gonna fall in love with Ammon's story, his background. Why don't you share it?
Okay, so for me, I mean, let's just back up a little bit further. So if you see, I got a Tongan flag and an American flag. I'm half Tongan. I'm half American. My dad's from the island of Vava'u, but I grew up here in the United States. But my dad, he's what helped instill in me my love for America. I mean, Tonga is a monarchy still to this day. So there's definitely differences, but the American dream and the values that it has here, he definitely fell in love with and helped pass on to me. So that's where I get some of my passion towards America is from him and seeing what he's come from and what he's been able to do here. So not only are those American loving values is what I was instilled from him, but also the entrepreneurial spirit, right? So as an immigrant, they come in and really it's fun to see some of the immigrants' entrepreneurial spirits. I mean, you look at a lot of like the Hispanics or people from really anywhere around the world. It is fun sometimes seeing them come in with that belief because today's day and age, in our schools, we were being taught that America is horrible and there is no American dream. But it is a fresh breath of air to be able to see, some of these immigrants come in. So I am a husband. I'm a father. I have two children. Um, and like we, mentioned earlier, both entrepreneurs for me. In college, I was taking business and marketing and playing football. Once I threw in the cleats and decided that business was something that I was a little bit more passionate about at the time, I had a lot of free time to basically start up a business for kicks and giggles and for experience. So for the past few years, have been doing events and have been quite successful here in our area, bringing the largest pop artists that have ever come through Southern Utah. It is the most popular festival for the age range of 18 to 30 in the state. It's growing quite a bit. So I've had a lot of experience in pooling people together, creating these communities and these experiences. But the idea of locally informed, I mean, I was thinking politics would be way far down the
Me
road.
too. Yep.
But the idea here, it came across when I was sitting down at a dinner table with family members, as it always does when that's where political discussion seems to come out. Um, but
Especially at your dinner table
oh yeah,
with all your brothers,
yeah,
sisters.
yeah. No, it's a fun time. So even my relatives. So it was my in-laws that were sitting down with, and there was discussion where he was like, "Hey, did you know, the city that we're living in is trying to pass this and that, and or are pushing this." And it was something that I thought was outrageous. I was like, "That is crazy." I feel like the
Wait,
majority.
which one was it at the time?
So it was wanting to restrict water rights to farmers in times of crises. Okay.
That
Now,
is just unbelievable. I remember when you told me about that, like this was several months ago, right? And I was like, "What? Can
yeah,
they do that?"
and maybe they've made it a little bit more politically correct, not as blunt as that. Um, but if we learned anything in the past few years, times of crises is a very vulnerable subject on who's declaring it, how long it's going to be, like what kind of regiments are in place and freedoms that we give up, right? So that was a pretty alarming to me, and I was like, I feel like most people, if they knew about this, they wouldn't agree. Now, luckily, they were able to cause enough havoc that people were in outroar, and they didn't. But what I was told was only one city councilman was abstaining it. So that was shocking to me that we had so many of our local leaders that were fine with that. So I was sitting there and I was just like, oh my goodness, like in this day and age, why in the heck is there's such an information gap? I was like, well, people are busy. Like, look at me. Like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have a business, and I am just so dang busy. Well, just a few days ago, I got a text message from our like a senator having some sort of assembly hall or where he was coming in, and was it Mike Lee? Is the one that I went to with you? Remember?
Yeah, yeah, it was Mike Lee,
What was that? It was a
Senator of Utah.
campaign. It was a campaign awareness thing, right? So he sends out. I don't know if it was him or the Republican Party in the area sent out messages to everyone, basically saying, "Hey, this is where he's going to meet. Come and be there," and whatever. I was like, "Whoa, that was super efficient!" Like, you
And
know,
I heard about it from you, right? Didn't I hear about it from you, or I heard about
I
it from somebody else?
no,
I didn't
really,
get a text.
you didn't get a text. I think you might have heard about it from someone else.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you knew about, it. But
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I received a message. And so sitting down after hearing about that and just the disconnect of what our local leaders may be pushing and where we are as constituents, I was like, this is ridiculous that, we don't just get a simple text message of an update, and embarrassingly, I didn't even know who my city councilmen were. I didn't know even the mayor's name. I knew it was Mayor Staley, but I didn't even know what he looked like or anything. So I was just like, well, this is, a super easy equation to me. Why doesn't someone just send out this simple text message that gives you one, helps you understand who are your local leaders, right? Their face, their name. It could even be, some of their voting history. But one, like who your leaders are, and then two, what bills and stuff are they pushing, and three, some form of way to have like a call to action, so an easy way for just to say yes, I vote for this, or no, and then be able to take that information to the city council. It was just like, we can just make this so simple in this day and age. We can just make it immediate, like,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's kind of where it started from, is why isn't this there? This is ridiculous. And it really isn't that expensive to get going, at least in our city. So that's when I brought the idea to you, and we kind of went from there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it's been a ride, because I think from my side, just telling a little bit about my background, and then
Yeah.
leading up to that, and how we came together. Um, I was born in Utah. We were both in Utah, in northern Utah, and and if you see on my wall, I actually modeled Ammon, and I have an American flag on one side, and then I just recently moved from Utah to Florida, and so I got a Floridian flag on my other side. And I actually have a Spanish flag from Spain right above me, because I went over there and I served a church mission for a couple of years. And so I think that's something that both of us have in common, is that we're proud of the places that we're from, places that we live. And it's something I've noticed that not a lot of, well, I would say that it's starting to become, the younger generations are starting to not be proud of where they're from and where they're at, right?
Yeah.
I definitely saw that in Spain. Most people, like, you don't see, I think we take it for granted here in America that they're just American flags everywhere, right? But over in Spain, like, they don't have Spanish flags. I don't know if you knew that, because you served your church mission down in South Africa. Did they have South African flags flying or not very much?
Not there that very much, and I talked to some South Africans about this. Some Zulu, so basically some Zulu men, right? So we talked. I was like, man, like, because the Zulus, they're very proud of being Zulu, but
Okay.
there's no South African flags, and it was interesting because they would look at us as like, oh, you guys are so cocky, you guys are so proud, and it's like, man, like,
The
don't you want?
Zulus said that about
I
the
was like,
Americans.
isn't it a good thing to be like proud of the country that you're from and all this stuff? Like, it's good. And so that's the idea, at least from some of the people that I spoke to in South Africa. By the way, great people, not dissing on them at all. Like, I think they're amazing, but there is that level of, even as in America it has come down, but traditionally speaking, there is this like, I'm proud to be America, you know. Energy that the rest of the world sees, and yeah, I think kind of looks
Yeah, for sure. I mean, isn't there a famous song, "I'm proud to be an American"?
where at least I know I'm free. Which I was laughing with my wife when we heard that, because I was like, man, that is kind of a shot in the gut to everyone else. Well, I'm proud to be American, right? At least I know I'm free. Sucks for all of
That's
you. So
that's funny. That's
yeah.
funny. Um, yeah, but going back to it, so was raised in Utah, went on church mission in Spain, came back after 2 years, and moved down to southern Utah. And I've been entrepreneurial my whole life, and so started getting into business down there, and got into the events um, sector as well down in southern Utah. And southern Utah isn't too big, and so it's like the two dogs in southern Utah. Ammon ends up reaching out to me and says, "Hey, why don't we partner up on an event together?" And it turned out awesome. And then kind of after that, we started meeting on a regular basis, talking about business ideas and how we can improve each other's businesses and stuff like that. And so we started our friendship. That was what, 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
ago? Yeah, somewhere around
And
there.
and for whoever may be watching, Addison's strengths are, he's an amazing operations minded person, as well as overall vision. But like, really, where it comes to just the dude, I mean, we can talk about just locally informed and how quickly it's progressed. And it's due to the operations, that Addison is so skilled in. So the dude is just, so that's why it was really nice as we've had our weekly meetings for the longest time, because I do have a little bit more on the marketing like kind of perspective, or we just complement each other really well. Where I suck at operations, he is
Well,
freaking
well,
good at. So,
definitely not a little bit on the marketing side. Ammon is you're very good at marketing. I mean, you get droves of people out. The biggest event that we ever had by 3 times the amount of people as our biggest event was with you when we collaborated. So it's like it's definitely finding those opposing strengths, just like in a marriage, right? You want to find opposing strengths, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But I mean,
yeah.
that's kind of why we wanted to partner up in locally informed, and and so definitely like I'll be more on the operations side, but you're definitely bringing the word out. You're like the captain that's going out in front of his troops. You're like the William Wallace of the guys taking the flag. Like, and everybody's like leaving. You're like, what will you do without freedom? Will you fight? Right? You're
I don't know.
definitely the inspirational, getting everybody together, like you talked about, bringing groups together, bringing the community together.
Well, thank you, but
And so with that, so we started meeting regularly, right? And I think both of us, like, we were raised where we always talked about politics, right? You always kind of just talked about general politics, and it was usually on the federal level, what's going on in the country, what's going on in the world. Me too. I was raised, my mom always talked about politics, like, oh, what are these guys doing? What are these guys doing? But I never really knew like what I could do, right? I never
yeah,
really had like here's what I can do now that I have this information. I was just kind of like gaining these facts, Um, and it wasn't until I think maybe 9 months ago, or so, maybe a year ago, that I took a Constitution class with Stephen Wimple, which you know,
Hmm.
and he was actually our DJ at the time. And he's like, "Hey, I'm starting up this Constitution class. It's Rick Green and Tim Barton, which are like two big guys in the freedom movement. They're teaching lots of educational programs." And I was like, "Awesome!" So we've actually met with him, and we have a weekly constitutional class that we even had last night. Like we
Really?
continue. Yeah, we're continuing. You should honestly,
What the
you
heck?
should join. I
I
think we
didn't know
talked about
about
this
this.
before. Yeah, yeah,
You hold it out on me, man.
yep. No, you should honestly join. I
I
think
I will.
you and your family would love it. Maybe your brother and sisters as well if they want to join. But we talk about the Constitution each week, and so we started that about 9, 10, 11 months ago, and while we were taking it, I just had so many questions. I was like, wait, so how does the structure work? How does this work? But then I was like, what about on like a local level? How does it work? So I understand more of how it works on a national level with our entire country, but how does it work like on a state level? Does each state have their own constitution? What about each county? Does each city have a constitution? Does How does that work? And he was like, well, I don't really know, you know? And he was the teacher, like he was an awesome teacher, but it was like nobody really knows about that kind of stuff. So it took me a couple of months and learning about this stuff that I was like, man, maybe like I definitely like you, I wanted to get involved long term, and my goal, it's still on my goals. It's I think 60 to 80. When I'm 60 to 80, get involved in politics. Basically 20 years where I'm involved in politics, 60 to 80, right? I'm 27 right now. So I'm like, okay, I have 33 years to prepare. And I was like, I just want to focus on business right now.
Yeah.
And he actually called me out and was like, hey, I think you should get involved in politics right now. And I was like, I'm running like several businesses and I don't have time for that. And I, I just want to focus on, I don't want to spread myself too thin. And then that was on my mind. And then you came and you're like, hey, there's this idea, locally informed. Here's what I'm thinking about doing, like you explained. And I would love for you to go into more depth about what that exact idea was here in a second. But when you told me about that idea, it was about a couple months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. He,
No, no. I think this
how
was like
long
a year ago, or close to it.
was it?
Maybe in the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, it's a long time.
Really?
Yeah,
So it's
because
it's been stirring.
see, it's funny that you say that because
It's good to go over this so we get our timelines right.
well, it's funny because Whipple, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Whipple.
Remind me his first name. It's
Stephen Wimple.
there you go, Steven. Shout out Steven.
I'm trying to give him some credit.
So it's funny that he was pushing you because I had that idea and it was like, yeah, but this is something that we do later. you know,
Yeah.
uh, I want to focus on making money and getting right, there. And then when we have time, when we can relax, we can go
Yeah.
on that. But
Yeah.
it was you that just maybe a month ago or a little bit
True.
that was like,
True.
hey, like really, you should do this. And I was just like, I don't know, man.
Yep.
But yeah, so it was you that really was just like, man, I think you really need to do this.
Well, maybe it was he pushed me, and I was like, man, maybe I should push Ammon. I'm doing my part. I'm getting other people involved in politics.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think
that's
that's
funny.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
but yeah. So then it was like he pushed me. I think I then pushed you, and then you came back to me, and you're like, hey, what
I
if
need
let's do
you.
this together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Maybe let's see. What were your thoughts on the idea when I presented it to you? Like why? Because at the time I was like pushing back. Maybe what were your feelings of like, going from, hey, this is going to be 20 years when I'm 60 to 80? What was
Yeah,
that deciding factor that made you push and be like, okay, you know what? I am going to try to get involved. I am going to try to push Ammon down the stairs. you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, what I realized was, um, we honestly might not have a country in 30 years. And I was like, and I think it was a part of watching Schindler's List, which I told you about. Did you end up watching the
I
full
did.
thing?
Yep, I watched the whole
Um,
thing.
if you guys haven't, if you're watching this and you haven't watched Schindler's List, go ahead and watch it. Then you might join the bandwagon as well and realize that you need to get involved. Because it was watching that movie that they just went along with what things were going along, and they focused on their business. The
Sure.
Jews, they were very wealthy, but what ended up happening? All their wealth got confiscated. And really, if you look at it, the very base, and they actually said this in my constitution class, which I like disagreed with at the time, that even before even religion is having political freedom. It's
Oh,
before family, it's before business. Because if you don't have political freedom, then you
interesting.
can't practice your religion. If you don't have freedom to go and live your life, you can't have a family. You can't have a business. You can't have money. You can't have all of these things. And that was the big light for me. Like, wow, if I don't get, I can focus on this, on making money and running businesses, but I'm watching our country go down the drain, just like they did with Germany, of getting more and more regulations. And the people, honestly, it was the people at the end of the day, because we can sit there and blame Hitler for all the problems, and Mussolini and all of these dictators, and we would be, like Jocko Willing says, who wrote Extreme Ownership, we'd be abdicating the responsibility and saying, "Oh, it's all of them. They're the ones that forced us to do this."
Yeah.
No, if I'm taking extreme ownership, I was the one. The
Hmm.
citizens were the ones who allowed this to happen, and I can see that was essentially the epiphany for me.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
What about for you on your side of a month ago when I was like, "Hey, you should do this right now. You have an opportunity, you have a window. Go ahead, take it." What was that reasoning on your side? And maybe
Uh,
the
well, so,
feelings as well. How did you feel?
yeah, some of the reasons why I was holding back was because, I feel like I want to be able to hunker down and be successful in certain areas and go from point A to point B. Um, so that was one reason I was holding back. Another reason was it's like, do I really want to get, you know, in the mix of this messy political game right now? Do I want to get my name attached? And everything that I say now is going to be recorded and used against me, or in the future. So doing podcasts, doing this stuff. Do I really want to start, down that lane? And I think that was like the biggest kind of thing holding me back at the time. But
Was it more of like a safety thing, like your physical safety, or you were going to lose friends, or you might get in legal trouble? What was it?
I think it's more just the intimidating factor of seeing, online people that are speaking up. I mean, you look at like Patrick Bet-David or Grant Cardone or, different things like that, different people like that, where, they are just being slandered and, um, all of a sudden you become a target for, anyone that disagrees with what you're saying, right? To exploit you, and just that vulnerability side of it. It's like, oh man, do I want to open myself up to a long road of that? I don't know, right? So I was just like, and not that I'm like, famous or anything, but the idea was, do I even want to, start down that route without being, solidified in what I've done in my life before taking that on. Kind of like Trump, right? Trump, he's a great, in my opinion, role model in that factor where he's got himself situated, he got his billions, and now he can fight back and spend his own money to go against that stuff. I thought that was a good template. But
Versus like if you and I got sued, we'd we'd be kind of screwed because we don't have like billions of dollars to hire like a team of 20 attorneys, just
yeah,
like full-time attorneys to defend us in all these different lawsuits.
it just seemed like a headache that I didn't really want to go down, right?
Yeah.
So, not that I would be sued or anything. It's just so that was like the biggest thing. Now, the thing that helped me get over it, actually, I was reading in my journal back in the day of when I had recently returned from my mission, and my dad sat me down and basically was giving me some advice, which I definitely cherish now that he's gone. Some of those times where he sat down, and I'm glad that I wrote it down, but um, he had pointed out some of my strengths, and I was like, huh, and I had felt I need to write down my strengths and see how I can best bless, or basically channel my energy in trying to accomplish things in life and utilizing my strengths and making sure they align. So I had sat down and I had written out my strengths, and I felt like I do a good job at bringing people together, which is something that my dad pointed out to me. Um, I am kind of that connector. Like I know this person, I enjoy connecting them so that they can benefit. And, um, I feel like I do have a good gut response on insight, observation skills, problem solving, and I aspire to be a good communicator. I would never say that I, but I aspire to be. And there's a few other things that I lined out, but I was looking at it. I was like, locally informed, really, this to me aligns really well. Why would I not utilize my strengths in trying to accomplish, what I can? And when I looked at it, I was like, I have no doubt that I can make locally informed successful, especially thinking of bringing Addison on, where he's mastermind in the operations. Everything that I've been doing on the event side of things, it's building attention and momentum, and it just seemed so much more simple and easy when it came to an idea like this. I just that's what sold me eventually, was like, okay, let's utilize my strengths and let's try to accomplish some good. And my mom sat me down even, a little bit a while ago, and she's like, I think this is something that is a great respect out of your father, to do it in his namesake, and trying to make him proud, right? This is something that I think he would have loved.
Interesting.
I think he would have been all for it. I think this would make him proud. But essentially, what it came down to is just realizing, hey, these are my strengths, and I have developed talents through my work history that I can actually make this happen. I have no doubt, like I can make this happen. Why am I not? So you know what? We're gonna send it, and that's what finally pushed me. It's like, okay, let's do it. So
Yeah.
I feel like we've got a great team behind us. We've got you. We've got so many people that are willing to, put time and effort and energy into this. It's like, all right, let's lean into it. Let's make it happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you explain a little bit about what it is,
okay,
and maybe also like why is it even important? I think you explain that. I want to ask you because I think you explain it the best.
okay. Well, Let's start off by a quote that you actually found. I really like these quotes, man. I was
If
reading
anybody
through.
wants any quotes, I'm big into quotes.
Yes, you are. And when it comes to this specific topic, you found some great quotes. I mean, one quote, our system of government was designed for a well informed and educated populace, and when they become less informed, they become more vulnerable. Benjamin Carson, right? Another one is if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. You know, Thomas Jefferson, right? There are so many other things here that basically point out the importance of being informed. And I was talking with a friend who was saying, yeah, they want you to be more ignorant. More ignorant people are easier to control. Whether you believe that our government is out to get us or not, doesn't matter. Those are the facts, right? That we've seen in history. So
Yeah.
just to start with the premise of there, where it's like, okay, information really is important for to preserve our freedoms. Okay, so what our mission basically is we want to close that information gap between the local voter and the local leaders at a city, county, and state level. We just want to educate people of what the heck is going on in a very simple and effective way, right? So that's the key. And I think as we're progressing with this idea, it's constantly changing a little bit. We're tweaking this and that, but the overall concept is we need an educated populace. We need civilization, our citizens to be educated at the local level, local and state level, right? um, and what really pushed me in help understanding this process, or I mean, what really helped me see this clearly was Covey. Good
Stephen
old
Covey.
Covey, Stephen Covey, where he talks about the circle of influence. And it applies to the political spheres 100%. So the idea is the more that you focus inside your area of control, your area of influence will increase. The more that you focus outside of your area of control, the more your area of influence will decrease. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the way it is in the national level. How many people do we know? Everyone that you and the 5 people that are going to watch this, everyone knows. Okay, I know that person who is so educated and so concerned at a national level and so pissed off that they don't do anything. They might vote on a national level, but they don't know their local. They don't vote local. They don't engage local. So their influence is literally decreasing. And where they have the greatest influence here in their local areas,
Yep.
it's literally decreasing. But if the more that we focus on, okay, what areas can we control immediately over the span of our lives, and then and in collaboration, our area of influence will just increase as we focus on a city and state level. So that's kind of the overall perspective of what we're trying to accomplish here. Is we're trying to focus on what we can control. Let's be proactive on the vote that actually matters, right? So in the beginning, where it's like your vote doesn't matter, or the question is, does my vote matter? And it's like, well, which vote are you talking about? If I mean that was me, I was asking that same thing in college. I'm listening, like, does my vote matter? No, it's where does my vote matter? Because when we vote for our president, that's not what's deciding who's going to be president. That's the electoral college process, right? It's so crazy that we focus so much on that level where our vote doesn't really do much there. But
And on the presidential scale, like just knowing the president himself doesn't affect our lives that much. It's really all of these other people that are on, like we're talking about, that are on the city council, that
Yeah.
are on the county commission, that are in the state legislation, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everybody knows. Like I was just doing a video recently. Everybody knows the president, but can you name one other elected official who's your elected official? Maybe you know Nancy Pelosi. Is she actually your House of Representatives? Probably not. Maybe you know like one or two off of the popular ones, but do you actually know your state senator and House and all these other people? And
Yeah.
I don't. Like that's where we're starting. What we said at the beginning. We're just beginners in this game. And
Yeah.
like I started doing research like we talked about, and I was like, wow. I call up Ammon. I'm like, hey, Ammon, called you up. Did you know that this is how the judicial system works? Did you know that
No.
this is?
Like,
And we're
no.
we're both just like learning together. Like, man, what if we made a video on this? What if we talked
Mhm.
about this in the podcast? What if we informed other people, and then also just bringing the people together? I think the simplest way, like a visual that I like to think of, is you have the elected officials way up here and the voters way down here. And there's essentially zero communication between the two. And it's like the voters have no idea. If you don't, like we said, if you can name your 10 elected officials, then awesome. Nobody can do that though. There are very, very few people that can actually do that. And so these guys, the voters, I think are just like, you know what? I have my job, I have my business, I have my family, I have just like you and I, right? We were in these guys' shoes. They were like, I got things going on. I don't have time to worry about politics, right?
Mhm.
I'll worry about that when I'm older. Push it down the road, right?
Yeah.
But then these guys up here, the elected officials, are like, we don't want you to know what we're doing. Like, it's better for us if you don't know what we're doing, because then they can just do whatever they want. Now, sure, there are some good people that want to do the right thing, but it's human nature to not want to have accountability, which is
Yeah.
a big word you talk about. And I feel like our position is coming right here in the middle, where it's like voter, elected official, and we're in the middle connecting. We're opening up the lines of communication. Hey, here's what's going on from your elected officials down to the voters. Here's what they're actually doing. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Okay, we relay the information back on up to the elected officials and say, hey, this is what the people are feeling. This is how they feel about what you're doing, to let you know, and to let you know that there's going to be accountability. If you don't follow what they say, if you don't represent them, then they're going to vote somebody else in.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that we just, through Addison's research, right? And we sat down, we sat down with someone that worked in my city, uh,
Jordan,
Jordan.
Jordan, great guy.
So we sat down with him, and he basically helped us see where the importance of the state legislatives, right? So even if anything, if we can accomplish anything, I think just accountability on those people. I think those are the people that have floated underneath the radar so so well, right? If we can just increase the level of accountability in that one area, I think it would change the nation, right? So for people who are watching and
For
don't
sure.
understand, they're the ones who are really writing the bills that are going to be changing and affecting our lives when it's concerning, the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, all of these things. That's where the primary source is, and where they'll be changing it. And at a city level, they have to adopt, whatever they bring in. They can push back at a certain level. Now it's very, we might be looking at it as like, oh, it's the state, it's still big. No, it's actually, you have two people, right? You have two people in your area that you need to
Yep,
worry about. So when you
yep.
break it down where
It's
it's
true.
like, hey, you only really, just, okay, first step to stop, to really have an effect on our nation, you just need to know two people. And you need to know who they are, what are they, what bills are they trying to pass, or where do they align themselves in their voting history and stuff like that? So if we can simply communicate that, just here's the person, here's what he's doing. Do you agree with it or not? And people will say, and it's a simple just text yes or no. Then, or we can say, okay, if you don't agree with it, here's his number, you know, give him a call ASAP, and this is a free service. So, we can have 10,000 people just in this city, which is a small city. I think literally here soon we can get 100,000 subscribers to this free service in Utah by the end of the year. And can you imagine where you have 100,000 educated civilians
Wow.
with the simple ability to call that number, and I'm going to tell you my peace of mind, or simple, they can just say yes or no, and then we can inform them, say, hey, here's the information that we were giving the people, right? Now they know your name, that now they know your voting, patterns, they know what's going
Yep.
on,
Yep.
just so
Yep. Yep.
increase that level of
And
accountability. So,
and for me, my first real election that I went and voted and I was informed was this past election. Just however many months, 6 months ago it was, or 9 months ago.
yeah.
And I actually saw your brother at the polls.
Yeah.
We were sitting in line together, and I went there. It was the first time I'd ever gone, and to like the physical, like sit down, a vote for this person, because I think I was gone the other times. I can't remember what exactly it was, but
Hmm.
I went. Yeah, it was the 2020 election. That's what it was. It? I don't know. It was one of those. And so I went there, and the reason I went was because of this Constitution class, and our teacher, Stephen, was like, go out and get informed about your local officials and then go and vote. And so it was like a part of our homework. And literally all I did was I took 10 minutes and I just went on to the city website, and it had the whatever 10 people who were going to be who were going to be elected or up on the ballot box, right? And you got to pick
Yeah.
five, I think, city council members. And I just read their one or two paragraphs. It took me 10 minutes, and instantly I was like, oh, yeah, I agree with this person. I don't agree with this person. I agree, don't agree, don't agree. Great. And I just wrote down their names on my phone. And then when I went to the ballot box, I didn't even have to have their names memorized. I just pulled out my phone. Okay, I'm voting for this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. And that was it. And and it took me 10 minutes. But I felt so much, I felt so much better because I was actually a responsible citizen. I was taking part. And then, as well, I wasn't just voting for random people that could have
Yeah.
been against my views. It only took me 10 minutes.
And I've been that person where I'm like, I'm voting for, like Donald Trump and the R here and the R here, and just start filling it out. So I
Yeah.
I think it doesn't take that much, and that's where it's like, why is this not a service already? It's going to be so simple in the fact that okay, there's some complications that we got to figure out. Like we both know that, but once we do, it's going to be a very
Like
simple.
any good endeavor does.
Yeah, but it's like all we need to know right now is who they are. What are they pushing? What is their agenda? And do we agree with it? And have an immediate ability to say yes or no. Like that's what I think.
Yeah,
Technology today is going to help us. Is just we should have this immediate,
for sure.
interaction response. So
And a quick story to go along with that, which I've told you about, but we had my wife's family over, and we were watching. I think it was one of the Dinesh D'Souza documentaries,
okay,
and so it's a political documentary talking about basically history of America, right? And at the end of the documentary, we finished it. I was like, "What were your guys' thoughts?" And Jessica's dad was like, this is amazing. This is incredible. I had no idea that this was going on. And I love it. I love it so much. I'm so proud of my country. Now what do I do? And he said that. He's like, now what do I do? And I was like, I mean, just keep on being a good person. But there wasn't something like actionable that he could do. But the great part about this is this text message.
Yes.
Here's the information. Agree, disagree. That's an action you can take. It's a small action. It takes what? You get 1 or 2 texts a week, right? Could be less, could be whatever. But you're like, yes or no. How long is that going to take you? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? But now you're starting to get 10,000, 100,000 and beyond people involved. And like you've talked about, go to the city councils like, hey, guys, just so you know, I got the lights going in and out of my place. There's somebody doesn't want me to share this message, I guess. Um, but here's 10,000 people, and they all said, or what are 80% of them are disagreeing with what you guys are gonna, or with what you guys are proposing.
Yeah.
So just so you know, there are 8,000 people in the community that are against what you guys are doing, and even saying, guys, let's show up to the city council. Like, there's so many more things that we can do.
Another story that goes along with this is when we sat down with Jordan, he was like, yeah, some people will show up to city council meeting and just lay into the mayor about, critical race theory or, all these things. And like, hey, like, we don't have anything to do with that, or let's say it's something about the
That blew
zoning.
my mind. I had no idea. When he said that, I was like, really? They
Yeah.
don't?
Or like when it came to another thing where he's like, bro, you should have been here 2 weeks ago to this meeting, right? It's just too late, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
what we want to do, this part of the education is help people understand where is the accountability and what action can they take. Exactly what you were saying, right? So it's like, hey, I don't like the whole like critical race theory thing, or the pornography and the children books, all of that. If I feel real passionate, I know exactly where to put my energy, right? So it's like, okay, if you disagree with this, right? Who is it? The state legislators. They're the ones, or the school board is of the county and the state, right?
yeah,
So, basically, if we can help people connect the dots, hey, place your energy here. This is who is accountable. I think that will help.
yeah.
Just, yeah, I
We
think
could we could
that's
even
really good.
have like a whole, maybe a page dedicated. Maybe there's an idea, a page dedicated where people can say like, I have this question. Who would I talk to about this? Where
Yeah.
is this? Hey, this is going on. Where there's like some maybe a dedicated support line, just like you call up Apple and you're like, hey, my iPhone isn't working. I'm trying to figure this out. I call Apple probably every other day trying to fix my problem. And
Hey,
I'm like, hey,
I want to yell at someone for this reason. Who do I yell at? The
here's the
city
number.
council. Mayor. This is where he lives. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and if you think you're like, oh man, that's I can't believe you guys like giving out the numbers of these people, the emails. No, that's their job.
Yeah.
That's literally their duty. They have it on public record on purpose so that they can be held accountable. And so if you're like, isn't that a little harsh? No, that's their job. You know what their role is? I think a lot of people view them as our employers and we're the employees. We need to be taking orders from them. But really, it is so backwards. We are the employer and we are saying we want you to be our employee on behalf of us. And if you aren't doing your job, sorry, but you're fired. And we're going to hire somebody else in your stead. And that's how the game's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
Because when it turns the other way around and these guys are telling us what to do, then you get a dictatorship.
The fact that their numbers and everything are public record and so easily available to get in contact with them personally in this day and age shows me that we are so disconnected that they still have the time to jump on. What is like one person every month is calling up. It's like, what the heck? No ways. Like, so that's like, for us, we can keep them busy. If we can keep them more busy answering phone calls than writing bills, I think we're in a good spot.
That would be a good question to ask. How often do you get people that reach out to your office and maybe they say, oh yeah, 20 times a month. They're like, okay, how many of those are the same 20 people every single month?
Right? Yeah.
Rather
So
than different people, it's probably like there are 20 informed people on their city level or on their county level or whatever, but how it's only 20 people, let's say.
yeah, and
It's
I
a
think
very, very
um,
small amount of people.
I think they've come accustomed to just getting, receiving the information, be like, ah, yeah, you guys are crazy, or you are just a
Yeah.
small minority.
Yeah.
Uh, I This is just side tangent. I heard Mitt Romney, he's like, I like to, say I represent the wise minority, and I was like, what are you saying, that the majority is stupid? So it's like, uh I think even if they are receiving this information, right, I think it really is going to take a avalanche of phone calls, of other stuff like that. But it's going to be, this is the idea, right? We have 100,000 people that are subscribed to the free service. They get
Yep.
done from their long day of work, and boom, they receive a text message. People are going to say, oh, people are just going to click into it. 99.9 conversion rate, for those who are interested in the statistics, right? Of open rate, not conversion. 99.9 open rate. I think for me, if it's like that, you just want to get it out of your viewpoint. So you'll open it and take a look at it and then, jump out. But you're still looking at it. That's a huge step right there. So, you get done with work, you get a simple text message, boom, okay, here it is. This is my elected official, one of the two or one of the seven that we want to focus on. However we want to go about it, right? This is this person. This is something that they're trying to pass, or here's a bill, and here are the people that are for it or against it. Are you for it or against it? Say yes or no. And we can get that data. We can put it,
Yeah.
or you say no, then it can be an audible response. Okay, call this number or send this email, right? So it's going to be a simple, just boop, 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 done, right? A free
And
service.
also it's I think when people think about politics, they think about falling asleep. They think about boring. They think all these things. Old people, right? That's what we were thinking. Hey, when we're old, that's
Yeah.
when we'll get into it. Um, but we're gonna make this fun. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be entertaining to get these text messages. It's not gonna be just plain Jane dry. It's going to be, hey, here's what's going on. Like this actually affects you. It's not like, oh, hey, here's this thing. It doesn't even affect your life, but yes or no. It's like, no, this actually affects your life. What do you like? Are you for this kind of behavior? Are you against this kind of behavior? Do you want more of this, or and it's probably going to get you upset. It's probably going to get you excited. It's going to get you happy. It's going to get you sad. But that I think that's our goal. Is like we want to stir those emotions so that you want to get more and more involved.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's basically, in a nutshell, a 35-minute nutshell of what it is, right? If there's anything they're missing, please let me know and we can kind of hit on it. But I think it would even be beneficial to kind of go and say, okay, what's our next step? What's our
Yep.
plan, of action? So if there's anything else you want to touch on in that realm, let's do it. If not, we can just jump right in on our plan of action. And
Let's jump onto the plan.
yeah,
There's so
sweet.
many more things that we can talk about,
I
and
know.
let's jump onto the plan.
Okay.
We just gave you a little, just a little snippets. I mean, we didn't even go into big events that we're gonna have and
And
city
yeah,
council meetings and all this other stuff. But you got to stay tuned because we got some really cool things. Ammon's an idea guy, an idea magnet, and magnate as well. And so he's got some good ideas up his sleeve.
yeah. So basically, right now is December 14th, 15th. What is it?
Yep, 15th.
So December 15th. So basically, this month we are trying to get everything situated at least a bare bone, uh, operations, right? Nail down exactly, okay, how are we going to get the information? What is the information layout going to be? What is the softwares we're going to be using? and then help, and then set up legally. But so all of that here within the next month is going to be dialed in. And for people who think that that's a lot, a short amount of time, maybe explain what you've done in just like a few days. I swear, this every time I get a text from Addison, it's like, okay, I've done this. Allie's my wife. She's like, how does he have so much time in the day to do all of his businesses? It seems like he's doing this full time. No, Addison is doing a bunch of other businesses, but he works 3 times as long and hard as everyone else.
Really, I just employ my kids. I employ my 3 and 1 year old. No.
So what have you done up to this point? How fast has it been? How efficient? So especially those who are watching, like, let's say my uncle or someone that's like, hey, you know what? I think
Sure.
these kids are onto something. Hey, let's show what our skill sets, how we're actually going. This is not just an idea. No, it's moving. So if you want,
Sure. Sure.
jump on board, help us out. So
Sure. I think what you asked me to be involved maybe a week and a half ago or something like that.
yeah,
And so it hasn't been too long that I've been more completely involved. But since a week and a half ago, I mean, we've made, I think, really big strides as far as like deciding a direction that we want to take it. Whether we were going to sit in on every single city council meeting, or we were going to pick the big issues, and it's leaning more towards picking the essential issues rather than just sharing all the information from these city council, state meetings, county meetings. It's more picking the most important things that are important to people, separating it out into basically your city level, your county level, your state, and and then as well just getting all the information. So like the past couple of days, I just created this entire spreadsheet
beautiful.
that's just columns and columns long of like how does how long are the term, what's the term length of every governor in every state, and just like boom 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 all the states, and how long this and how long this for every single area.
I think it would be actually impactful if you showed us really quickly your screen, with the data that
Yeah.
you've collected, and kind of just give us a little rundown of all of that. I think it's important because it's like,
Okay.
no, hey, this is, we're doing immense work, especially Addison, in trying to figure out the best process and
Well,
educating
let me
ourselves.
share. Yeah, let me share this with you. Um, so this screen, let me know when you see it on your side. But essentially, it's a a graph of the entire governmental system. And I didn't even know that this existed. Like I just like found this out, like pieced it all together. Okay.
Okay, I can
Um,
see.
so let me zoom in just a little bit.
So
Um,
wait, restate that again. What is it?
so it's the entire, it's a bird's eye view, a 30,000 foot view of the entire government. From a You can see from this is just a miniature model of this entire process down here. Um, and essentially it's from the federal level, the state level, the county level, and the city level, and then who is in each of the three. So there are four different levels of government, and um, and then there are three different branches, or three different responsibilities, three different areas of government, right? Executive, just to give a quick overview. Executive, those are the people who are executing the laws, the people who are enforcing laws, making sure that people are actually following them, right? And then the legislative branch are the people who are legislating laws, or they're writing the laws, okay? So these guys write the laws, these guys enforce the laws, and then the judicial branch are the ones who are judging whether people are keeping the laws or not, and whether laws are actually constitutional or not. And so like just knowing like, okay, those are three areas. Who's the federal on the federal level? Who's the executive? That's the president. On the state level, who's the executive? That's the governor. On the legislative level, who's on the county level, on the legislative level. It's the county commission, right? And I just recently did a video just explaining each of these parts, and like it'll be interesting for you to go and like watch that video,
Okay.
who's ever watching, and
Yeah.
see if you can guess them, because I write them in like step by step. And I don't know how many you got if you were guessing before I was writing them when you were watching it, but I think most people would be able to get maybe a few of them, but we don't even know how the government's structured. So it's like that's like the whole government, and then breaking it down even more. I won't go too in depth
Yeah.
on this unless you want me
Mhm.
to.
No, it's
Um, but it's essentially like, okay, from each of these levels, the president, um, how many people do you vote for? You just vote for one president. You just vote for one governor. You vote for 1 to 7 people on your county commission. You vote for one mayor. And it's just breaking it down like how many people are you voting for? How many members are there in the groups in each state, right? Like the county commission, there's an average of 67 county commissions in each state. And it's like that. It's nice to know like the bird's eye view, and again, it like there's just so much information. You can see these to be determined. Like I'm still researching it, but this took like 3 days straight of just like I didn't even see my family for like 3 straight days, and working till midnight, waking up at 6 a.m. and just going at it again. And at first, I wasn't writing it down. I was just researching it, and I was like, wait a second, I should be like keeping track. So I had to like go back and so yeah, that's a little bit about this, and then just the last part of like what are their responsibilities. So it's just breaking it down like how is our government actually structured, and then and so I can have that information, and then when I hear about what's going on, I'm like, oh, who's my state senator? Oh, I know that there's a state senator and a federal senator, and they're different people, which I didn't know that there was a difference. I didn't
yeah.
know that there was a federal Congress and then a state legislation is what they call it, but it's essentially the same thing just on different levels. So
Yeah. No, thank you. You can jump out
I'll,
of.
I'll show you this one other page. Here's
Okay.
all this data that I was talking about, and it's like
Yes.
just breaks down. Look at them. So you can say, okay, just to give you a simple example, like how many state appellate courts are there? And you might be like, what the heck is a state appellate court? It's beside the point right now. It's a part of the judiciary system. And you see 3 states don't even have one. But then all these states have one, these states have two, and then some of them have a lot, right? And what are they called? And what's the number of years that they're, I think this is a term length. Yeah, what are the average term lengths? Or not average, but what are the term lengths for the state appellate judges? And so it's just like breaking down all of this information.
So you can jump out of that screen now. But essentially, the reason why I wanted you to bring that up is so that the people watching, they get an insight to Addison and the skill sets that he has, and the passion that he has behind it, and what he's been able to accomplish just in a few days, right? And it's helped us understand the process, because that's a lot of information that necessarily people don't need to know. But for us, it's really easy to explain things in simple terms when you understand the problem more
Yep.
perfectly, right? So breaking it down to people, how many people do individuals need to know uh, that affects them from a city level all the way to a federal level?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15 people depending on your city.
10 to 15, right? So we break it
And we're
down.
not talking about 500 people that you need to know about. 10 to 15 people. That's it.
And even cooler, or simpler is to start really to push back and take our freedom back, or push against tyranny. We really need to start with only understanding what uh, two people when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
two
Your
people.
state senator, your state House of Representatives.
Yep, and then
Yep.
we can start to increase and understand there. So we that was a few days. We still have a few more weeks. So you can imagine what we're going to be able to accomplish on the operation side there. Okay. Now that's our plan. January 1st, we plan to actually kickstart this and get going hardcore in the announcement and the marketing and the pushing effort, right? And so that's
Yep.
where I get really excited. This is where, my
That's where
expertise.
let me just give a little intro onto you, Ammon. Of you've definitely shined the light on me, which I really appreciate. I am really passionate about this, and I was actually begging you, like, please, for probably the past month, like, if there's anything that I can help out, just let me know if there's anything. And I'm like trying to do like some research, and hey, Emma, check out this article and check out this and this testimonial. And so I'm really glad that you brought me along, because I am really passionate about it, and I think that it'll help a lot. I think it'll change the course. Honestly, I think it will change the course of this country, and even down the road, I don't know if we talked about this, in potentially other countries as well. Like, this
Yeah.
would be something that, wouldn't every country want to be locally informed and know what their elected officials are doing? And so I appreciate that. On your side, Ammon is just the bee's knees on being able to sell people and being able to market people. My wife tells me, she's like, I don't know how to sell you on this idea. I don't know how to persuade you to do this idea. And I said, I always tell him, like, just do what Ammon does. Ammon, I'm does this. She's like, oh man, I wish I knew how to sell like Ammon, because he always is able to persuade you to do this or persuade you to do this, because you always look at it from, hey, here's your best intention. I have your best intention in mind, and here's how you're going to benefit. And that's the angle that you've taken, when from conception of this idea till today, has been, how can we help, like, genuinely help our citizens become informed? What is everything that they need? Not, how can I make this easier on myself? How can I do the shortcut way? No, what is the best? And now all this stuff, like, you can get this and this and this, and it's all a benefit. And so it's like the sales side and also the marketing side of putting big events together, and putting, like I think it would be good to share that little story of how you're like, oh man, I'm getting out of the events business, and I wasted this time because I built this huge empire of events, and now I'm gonna start a different business. And so I think from that side, just a little intro, you are the master at bringing people together, and going to take us to that 10,000, 100,000 and beyond very quickly.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, events have never been like my passion. And so when you say, like, I was like, I need to get out. I'm like, I freaking hate events. There's elements I don't like, but it was playing to one of my strengths of bringing people together. I really liked that. Now it finally hit me when I was trying to go to bed, and I was up till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, basically breaking down everything on how my past experience is perfect for what I was like. Oh, it wasn't for a waste. No, it's never for a waste, but it was really fun to see, because some of the past, just to kind of give you an insight, we what I really figured out was grassroots marketing when it came to events. And what that is it's not paid ads. It's utilizing the people, the everyday Joe people, to basically come together and build hype slash momentum towards an event or an experience, all for free, being able to utilize that group. Now, I was able to do that and bring in thousands of people for these events, and they're paying anywhere from $65 to 150, sometimes even more. So that's paid event, being able to bring thousands of people. So, two things that locked in my mind was, okay, there's attention and momentum. How do we build attention? How do we build momentum? So the plan going forward on how to actually do those two things. We're going to build a ground team and basically an online team. Okay. What we're going to do from January 1st to like March 1st area, this is the tentative dates. For 2 months, we're going to build a ground team that is going to be every Saturday getting together and going on blitzes. So we're going to have 5 to 10 people that are going to be the team leads, and every individual is going to be responsible for bringing an additional 5 to 10 people. Right. In an ideal world, if we can get some funny behind this, I think we can make it super fun. Everyone comes together. We go and we blitz for 2 hours. Afterwards, we have a dinner or something. So in an ideal world where we create, a fun experience where we can rally together. Now, we'll be doing that every single weekend. And that will be able to get us up to 10,000 subscribers here, starting locally. So the idea is we're going to start local. We're going to build some attention and momentum here in this area. Then we're going to expand. So that's just building up subscribers.
And
Now,
I think explain as well on the online side as well, because you have a lot of experience on that as well.
yeah, so that fits right into what we're going to be doing, because that's going to be the ground team. And then what we're
Okay.
going to do is we're going to have an event, right? This is going to be the attention portion of it. So March 16th is kind of the tentative date that we have planned, where we're going to have basically a political event, fundraising event for locally informed. Okay. The idea is we're not going to have one of these, lame caucus meetings, right? We're not going to
Yeah,
sit here and just be super lame. No,
they're so boring.
we're going to make an experience. We're going to pull someone like, let's say, Glenn Beck. We'll have a social media uh, personality, and then we'll have a representative. So we could have one of the state representatives come match. So we have 2 of those people. And this is going to be a free event. Now, free events that's why I'm like buzzing. I'm like, man, they're easy to put on, and it can be super fun. It's easy to basically get people to free events. I mean, I was getting thousands of people paying. That's why I said that. Now, the idea is that we can get like 5,000 people. Let's say, even if it's 1,000, right? Even if it's 1,000, huge success. The goal will be 5,000 people at this free event, and it's going to be Trump style, right? Where you got the right music, you got the right energy, you got the right people speaking. Now, the whole purpose behind this is just to raise awareness and excitement about local involvement, being informed locally. So we get these speakers to come in. They really rally us up on educating the importance of local government, city up to state, right? Now, when we do these events, this free event, it's basically presenting, hey, here's the vision, here's the idea, this is why it's important. But what is going to be the solidifying factor is our ground team, where we're going to get up and say, hey, this is obviously like a good idea, but this is not just an idea. No, we've got 10,000 people subscribed within 2 months just in Washington or southern Utah. Imagine what we can do in 6 months. Imagine what we would do in a year, right? And how's that going to influence our local areas? I feel like we can get 100,000 in the state of Utah. What is that going to do for us and our state legislators? In bringing accountability to them. So basically, now you have their attention. Now you have the momentum. The momentum is that 10,000 already. So it's like, hey, we have 10,000. We have your attention. This is going, it's moving with you or without, right? So what can you do right now? You're going to jump on board with us. You can help donate. and basically have a set amount. I think we can probably raise anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in that event.
For sure.
Now, what we do is we capture it, right? Video. We capture the experience. And now we have a success in Southern Utah. We have 10,000 subscribed people. We have $50,000 to $100,000 that we raised. Now we bundle that together, and what that becomes is more momentum. And then we just replicate that throughout the rest of the state. This whole process, a copy and paste situation, where we have our ground team, we have our events, and we're building momentum and attention. Once we have Utah, basically get that goal of 100,000 people, where we have people that are jazzed up, subscribing, money coming in, we can bundle that together and we can go at a national level. We can go to people like Charlie Kirk. We can go to people like Mark Levin, or other these big time national figureheads in the political world, and be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is a movement that's going on. The momentum that we see here, this is going to fill the entire national politics. It's free, it's simple, it's going to catch on like wildfire. And what it can do is most important. It can actually bring accountability and information to the local levels. So that's where we're going to push back. That's the whole plan behind it. Now, the event side of things, we have done so many more complex logistically speaking events. It's just like, man, this is going to be just a breath of fresh air. My sister is a beast when it comes to that. She's coming on. We have other people that are joining in. So that's going to be January 1st is when we're going to launch that effort. March 16th is when we want to have that event. And then just replicate, copy and paste it further down throughout this year. But that'd be the whole idea of this year, is building attention and momentum in the state of Utah. Get to 100,000 subscribing people that are not, I shouldn't say subscribing. Get 100,000 locally informed voters, right?
Yep.
So that's why I get so jazzed up. We've got a killer superstar like Addison. We've got some experience from me and my team at a higher level than these events right here. We've got a team, a handful of other people that are just willing to put their blood and sweat into this to make it happen. And the service is free, simple, and efficient. People know their information, and they now know how to keep themselves and their local leaders accountable. So,
yeah. And I think that was an excellent explanation of it. As when people say, okay, let's say that I really believe in your guys' mission. I really believe in what you guys are doing. I want to donate. Where is that money going to, and how far does that money take them?
yeah.
What can we actually accomplish with the money that people donate?
Yeah. So first off, obviously the operations funding, the software funding, the setup, getting things situated to act and form like a big business, right? This is not going to be podunked in the garage downstairs. Addison does a great job of forming and structuring something like a big business. So it's going to be funding a lot of those things, at least in the beginning level. Now, when it comes to the operations on how many texts that we can send out, this is the fun part, where really, what did we figure out? 5,000 people can be informed per month with 4 texts a month off of, is it $500?
Yeah. So it's
300?
each text is about a cent to 2 cents. A cent to 2 cents. So yeah, it's about 5,000 people on. I think it's around $500. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a long way. You donate $5 or $500, and it's like boom, you just funded 5,000. Is that right? I think it's
Well,
more than that.
I'm pretty sure. Well, because we're sending 4 texts a month, right?
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure it's around a few $100s per 5,000. But maybe if you want to double check. So essentially, bottom line is the money goes a long ways when it comes to text. on how many we can text.
$500 would do 12,500 people per month. So in 1 month, because they can send out 50,000 text
Okay,
messages. Yep.
sweet. So so the money can go a long ways there. But also, at least I think the most critical point right now in this beginning phase is building that momentum and attention. So that would go to fund some of the tours, you could say, of events throughout Utah. Now, I'm used to spending $100,000 to $300,000. I spent more too on one event when it comes to like pop festivals. With this, I think that we can put on a great event, a great show for around $10,000 or less. So I think the money that we'd be raising, let's say $100,000, would go a long ways in creating some just a great experience, bringing in some great speakers, and being able to help create that momentum. I think that's the most important thing right now, at least in my opinion, is building that momentum here in the state of Utah, then that we can take nationally. So
Yeah. And I think going along with that, like you might be watching as a viewer and you might be like, wow, $500, like I don't have $500. Like you might be on the $5 range, which $5, it's like that still goes a long way.
yeah,
You know, that still sends 500 text messages, and allows essentially 500 times for people to become locally informed in their area.
yes,
And then if you might be on the other side of saying, yeah, I really believe in this. I want to put on an event. Imagine you donate $10,000 and it allows us to put on an event in your area where we have 1,000 people that show up. And you are the one who supported and got those 1,000 people or 2,000 or 5,000 people to come out. And so it's really it's such a good cause because it's I mean it's the best cause there is. It's the cause of freedom.
yeah. And I realized I didn't really explain too well of how I actually will bring out 5,000 people. But just to touch on that before we can move on, but it's very simple actually. If your friend's going to go to an event, you're going to see it, or if your friend wants to do something, you might hear about it. If you do something, you're not going to go like an event, you're not going to go alone, right? So that's the idea, that's the power within just common Joe is if you can get one person to come or to advocate for you, you're bringing close to 5 people. If it's a free event, close to 5 to 10 people. So the idea is to get about 100 to 500 people here in southern Utah that are going to be our local promoters online. Now we give them the content to post and inform them when to post. So we artificially create social media waves of information and social media momentum. So if basically at the same time we get 500 people to post about it, these are local people. So everyone that gets on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, they start seeing, wow, like, okay, this guy's going, oh, this guy's going, and so that's essentially how we get
Yeah.
thousands of people to our other events that are paying high number tickets.
Yeah, and
So
it's not like this is the first time. Like, hopefully, we get people out. You've done this many, many times.
yes, yeah, no, I've done it. I've never, okay, I've done it a lot, and it's been very successful every single time. And yeah, so we're going to combine that just with personal invitations. I can brand the crap out of this. That's something I'm really good at, is creating that experience in the brand within events. I'm really excited to have a lot of influential people come, a lot of normal Joes, right? That's where the power is. I'm excited to put on an event for this community to get stoked about being locally involved and helping support locally informed. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for it, and I know that like if you're watching this Like you're probably getting the little tinglies in your stomach. Like this, honestly, is going to be big. Like it's gonna have a big impact, and I think we got a killer team on our side. I'm just super glad that you came up with this idea so that we could actually make a difference. And maybe one point to cover is a point that I brought up to you is this a political uh basically, are we supporting a political party with locally informed? Are we nonpartisan? Where are we at? Because just a little background, like I told you, I was like, hey, I have views on this and this that are different than what you think, right? And they are different than what other people think, right? We all have differing views on, let's say, um, I don't know, let's say abortion. Let's say some people are saying, hey, we need to have a statewide, ban it on the state level. We should ban it on the federal level. We should allow this many weeks. We should allow this, and there are differing views, and so basically asking you the question, because I think you explained it really well, of where our stance is. Are we taking stances on these issues? Here's locally informed stance on abortion, on freedom of speech, on this, on this, on this. What's our stance?
Yeah. So I think what we need to do is just clearly communicate our values, as a not as a business, as a nonprofit, right? Um, those are going to be topics of importance for us that we're going to then relay, right? So our values are going to be rooted in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom, of uh, property rights, everything that comes down to it is going to be revolving around the Constitution. Now, some people are going to be like, "Yo, that's far extreme right," but my opinion is right and left is always moving around. When the Constitution was created, it was created for all people, right, left, center, black, blue, whatever you want to say. It was created for all. The very same elected officials that you would say is a socialist or a Democrat that squares his hand to the Bible, or swears an oath to preserve the Constitution, right? That's what we are basically, our values, our purpose in this is going to be to preserve the Constitution. Whether you perceive that one way or other, that's fine. For us, it's independent. We can present the information and let the people decide and support or not. Our purpose is to inform and then relate that information. So that's my opinion. I think if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it
Yeah,
as well.
I think that that's an excellent definition. The only thing I would add is that uh, we are um, we're there to essentially be that connector of
Yeah.
information, right? We're not there to say you should vote this way or vote this way. We're there to say here are our values, here's what we think is important, and the people that we talk to, we're going to be getting feedback from you guys saying this is what is important to us, and then we can say there's the state legislation is proposing this bill. Do you agree with it or do you disagree with it? And then letting you as the people, versus we could just step in the middle and then kick out the voters and say we're going to be telling the government what they should be doing. That isn't our role. It's to say we want to be in the middle, basically transmitting the information down and then back up the chain of command, and not there to say you should vote one way or another.
Yes. So exactly. And basically, to summarize it all, this is the direction, and it may shift or pivot or whatever, but we're just going for it. So you know basically be patient as we figure this thing out. So
Well, it's a great first podcast. We're going to be doing it each week, right? Every week, and just giving an update as to where we're at, and also talking about issues, local issues, um, and so right is right. That's my understanding,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think that too will change. I think it'll be fun to even get on people that are working in our government, people that have had horrible experiences, and kind of just do, I don't know, an interview base and get
For
real life
sure,
experience on both sides of the spectrum. And so I think there's a lot of angles that we can start going down with the podcast. But overall, it's going to be around being locally informed. So
for sure. Okay. Well,
so.
thanks so much, you guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.